Hello, the second part of this lesson is what if the only information you have is the coordinates for just a couple points on the line? I didn't give you a graph. What do you do then? There's a couple ways to do this, but we're going to teach you the algebraic way using a formula. So in this case, your equation for slope is going to be this scenario. It's going to be slope equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Now this can be a confusing equation for a lot of people. What this basically means is you take the second y minus the first y, and you divide it by the second x minus the first x. And these x and y values are going to come from the points that you got, so those coordinates that exist. So you're going to kind of think of it that way. So this little 2 and these little 1s are not numbers you're doing math with. They're just designated as the second y value minus the first y value, the second x value minus the first x value. So don't do anything with these 2s and 1s. When you create the equation, they're going to disappear. So as an example here that we're going to do, we've got a scenario. What is the slope of a line that passes through the points? And I'm going to kind of highlight these so we can pay attention to them. Our first point A is -2 and -4. And our second point B is at 3 and 6. And generally, the order of the letters is the same order that the points are going in, so that helps to keep it straight. So what we're going to do here is starting off with is I want to make sure that you understand which are the x and y points. So for A, where you have -2 and -4, remember that for points, points always go as x and y. This is an x coordinate, this is a y coordinate. So we know where this would go. This would be at -2 and -4. And I'm going to kind of graph this as we go so you can visually see what we're doing, even though I want you to know how to do this algebraically. So on the graph down here, I'm going to draw a little grid. Here's our little grid, which I probably should have drawn ahead of time, but hey. And so we are going to graph the point -2, -4. So remember that the idea is you have a point at -2 and 1, 2, 3, -4. So there's your -2, -4. And I just want you to visually see how the algebra works with the actual graphing as well. But we do want you to be able to do it algebraically. So this is the idea. And now the key is here is that this is your first point. So we're going to kind of look at this. I'm going to make sure that looks like a comma. B also has the points 3 and 6, and these are also x, y points. So this is the x value, this is the y value of another point. So on your graph down here, we know that x is 3 and y is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there is your 3, 6. So you know that you have a line that looks like this guy. And we want to know, how do you get from this point to this point? What do we do with the algebra? The idea is to think about the concept that rise, when you think of rise over run, rise is your y increase divided by your x movement horizontally. So basically the idea is I'm trying to figure out, how do I get from -4 for my y value up to 6? That would be my rise. And how did I get from -2 all the way over to 3? So the idea is basically what you need to figure out is the difference between these. What's the difference between -4 and 6? That would be how much I've increased. And what's the difference between -2 and 3? That will be how much I've moved over in the left to right direction. So we're going to do that mathematically by doing basically up here in the equation a subtraction, the difference. So what you need to pay attention to is which is your x1 and your x2s, your y1 and your y2. The key here is what we have to remember is that this is point number 1. This is point number 2. Because this is the first point on the graph, this is the second point, or this is the first point in the question, this is the second point, whatever way you're looking at it. So that means that -2 is your first x value, and -4 is your first y value. Those are the 2 points that are going to go where you have x1 and y1. And then you're going to look at the next point and go, all right, well, here we go, 3 and 6. This is your second x and your second y, because this is the x and y's from the second point. So you want to keep these straight. And I highly recommend that you make sure that you're labeling your points with this x1, y1, x2, y2. If you label these, you are much more likely to keep it straight. If you don't, and you just try to do it visually, you're much more likely to mix up the numbers. Then what I recommend is I'm going to write the formula. So slope equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Make sure you have the formula with you this week while you're doing this. You want to make sure you keep it straight. It is available to you throughout this unit for all these lessons, so make sure you keep accessing it. Write it down in your survival guide so that you have it available to you, or in your notes, wherever you're keeping things. And then what I'm basically going to do here is take a look and say what matches with what. So my y2, in this case, y2, there's my y2, it's 6. And my y1 was this one, which is negative 4. The second y value in the second point, and the second and the first y value for my first point. So the idea is we're going to sub those in. Second y value is 6, and we're going to subtract the first y value. Pay attention to this. This is a subtract. This has a negative. You need both there. It will change the question if you drop one. So it's y2, 6, minus negative 4, minus negative 4. And then for the x's, we're going to pick a couple more highlighter colors here. So I dig them out of my desk for you. We're going to look at x2. So it says x2. That was the x value from the second point. It always kind of feels like you're doing these questions a bit backwards because you're not going from the beginning to the end. You're actually going last and last, first and first, like that kind of idea. It does feel like you're filling in the equation backwards, and that's okay. That's what it should feel like. So when you're doing that, if you feel like you're like, wait a second, why am I putting these numbers in backwards from what they say in the points? That's kind of the idea. So in this case, we look through, as I go through doing that, and I just highlighted it the wrong way on you. I apologize. That's your x2, and that's your x1. So x2 was 3, so we're going to go 3 minus x1 is negative 2, so we're going to put that in brackets. So then we look and we say, okay, let's make sure that works. 6 is my second y value, yes. This one, negative 4, is my first y value. Second x value, first x value. And then what you want to do is make sure you don't have any double signs. So what I would do is get rid of those. A negative and a negative is the same as a plus. A negative and a negative is the same as a plus. That makes our math a whole lot easier. And then we go 6 plus 4 is 10. 3 plus 2 is 5. And then from here you want to simplify it down to the smallest numbers, the smallest fraction. In this case it works out perfectly because 10 actually divides by 5. So 10 divided by 5 is 2. This is the same as 2 over 1. This means that we go up 2 squares and over 1 unit. That's what's happening to this scenario. And you can double check this on your graph. Number 1, you should basically say that to go from the first point to the second point, I've gone up 10 units and I've gone over 5. So let's try actually counting that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, up 10, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, over 5. I got to that second point. I know that answer is right. The other thing is that when you simplify it, that tells me that I could do a whole bunch of points in between that go up 2, have a rise of 2, and a run of 1. So I can go up 2 over 1. Hey, I'm on the line. From there, I can go up 2 again over 1. I'm still on the line. Up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1, and eventually I get to that point, and I've now plotted a whole bunch of points in between as well. So that gives me a lot more information about that graph. I know that that can be a bit confusing. That part will definitely take some practice, so I recommend that you are practicing finding slope from 2 points. It's often the section that is the most difficult in this particular lesson. So take a look at that, see how you do. Please contact us with any questions or any issues that you might be having. Thanks very much.